And welcome to the podcast, Ian Baker. We've had a pretty rough day, and how'd you get here? What's been going on in Baker's world?
I mean, we're in event mode right now. We're 5 weeks out, so everything's got to happen, at once, I guess. So there's not a lot of time left in the day.
So you've been going. Let me get this right. You've gone from trying to prepare for Eastern Creek, and you're trying to figure shit out today there, as well as also visiting your sister. All in one.
Yeah, well, a bit of that stuff. But the main thing is just the whole COVID thing's just throwing turmoil into not just us, to everyone, Yeah. It was, we've had to, first of all, we had to cancel the event in 2020, and then we had an event for 2021 in October, and then everything gets moved, and then, so we moved to April, and you pick a weekend that doesn't clash with V8 supercars or, whatever, so we can make sure that and also these days you've got to look at TCR, because a lot of these drivers drive in other, the other events.
Yep.
And then, of course, you pick an event, pick a date, but then you don't think about infrastructure around you. Like, there's a big show on across the road that they're bumping in. We've got to try and negotiate all that stuff. So, when you're looking at getting 20,000 people into any venue, it's a mission just with all the infrastructure and everything. And then, of course, because not just us, not just motorsport, but every event sort of that was in October, November, December of last year has all moved to April.
Yeah.
So even just trying to get infrastructure, and then on top of that throw the Easter show in there as well, it's a bit of a challenge. Yeah, we're pretty busy.
Yeah. So how did you, obviously you're my first guest, as I said off air, who's not a race car driver, you're an event promoter.
Yeah.
But your background, I've seen on your social media, I've chatted to you numerous times, as much as when you're not busy. You actually started World Time Attack, and you actually saw the big day out as your way to start promoting the event. Was that how did that all work out?
Only because I see a lot of the motorsport events are run by motorsport people, so they just focus on the drivers and the cars and all that stuff. Where I've seen it as a festival, really, where car people can get together and sure that the Time Attack's the hook, and that's the particularly the top end cars that everyone wants to see go as fast as possible.
Yep.
But there's a whole car culture underneath that we see as entertainment. From the drifting to the car show to the trader alley to it's basically we're in the entertainment business, not motorsport.
Yeah. And you started the event. Let me, if I can get my facts right.
Yep.
It was Oran Park. Was that your your first unofficial event? Or
Correct. So I'd been going to Japan to watch the Tsukuba events for quite a few years before that, and we actually took Mark Berry's GTR there in 2007.
Yep.
And I sort of said, this back then there was a lot of pro cars. Which really are our open class cars now, but there's a lot of, heavy duty cars in Japan running at that time, and I was like, and it was all the tuning shops. I'm going, man, this is like so cool if people could see this, but it was not. It was run by the magazine, so it was never it was never a spectator event.
Yeah.
So there'd be like 100 people there, and I was like, I reckon we'd fill the stands to put if we brought this to Australia. So I just decided to do it. I'd never even run a track day, and just basically decided to. To run Time Attack in Australia. And so I went and seen Jeff Boulos, who actually still works for me as my race director at our event, as done for every year.
Wow.
He was the manager of Oran Park back then.
Yeah.
And I went to him and said, I want to run a Time Attack event. And he said, so do we. So we sort of got together, and we had through my parts company, High Octane, we had a lot of contacts throughout the industry because we've been supplying. Yeah. So we put together we're supplying a lot of the tuning shops. So we put together a sort of national event. The first one was pretty reasonable success considering we didn't even know what we're doing.
Yeah.
And people were coming up and saying, what do I do now? I'm going, I don't know. We've never done this before. So, but the response from people was phenomenal. They were like crying out for that. So it just grew from there, really. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So the first event, did you just could anyone go on the track at that stage, or was it like class by class?
So we had two classes back then. We had open and club sprint. That was it. And there was still and actually I think from memory, Garth Walden won in what became the Tilton Evo, the first of it.
Yeah. Right.
So they were still there. It was all a lot of the roots of it from day one were there in the early days. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. It was cost. When did the Royal Purple thing come about? Because you guys hang out a bit at.
I used to live with EJ when we were young, you see.
Yeah, right.
So,
so that's where that friendship.
So actually, what I'll do, I'll go right back long before Time Attack. I started out as a fabricator, like doing race car stuff and everything. And so I was actually working for Nestle, and EJ, who owns Royal Purple now, he was working at this taxi company, which they were converting the London cabs to V6 Commodore motors and putting. Remember the Metro cab?
Yeah.
Okay, so they were doing them, and I was working for Nestle at the time as a fitter welder, and I fell off a ladder and I sprained my ankle, so I was on crutches, and the guy that'd been doing the fabrication there, he said. He said, the guy's gone away for a few weeks. You want to come and do this? It's all sit-down work. Yes, I went down there. And all the guys in that shop, it was Bruce Garland, Steve Kerr from Benson's Turbo. So all the guys from all these turbo places, because they tried to turbo up first. So then they set up this.
Yeah, right.
And so then I finished up. So I went and worked there for a bit. And then I finished up leaving Nestle and went for a lot less money, went and worked there because it was all these turbo boffins and stuff. And I'm like, wow, Bruce had just come back from working at Rally Art Europe. And so I sort of, I've been working in the food industry and went and worked there. And then in 91, they canned that. And me and Bruce stayed on there.
Yeah, okay.
And I started a company called Performance Metalcraft, which we started just doing back in those days. Not many people were offering fabrication services to the turbo guys, you know.
Where was this located?
In West Ryde.
Yep.
So I think back then Oye was around. He was one of the first ones. Plasma Man, who's still around today, and actually one of our sponsors now. And Mixed Metalcraft back in those days, and myself, and that was about it.
Yeah. Okay.
And so we did a lot of turbo intercoolers and manifolds and all that sort of stuff. This is back in the early 90s, you know.
Yeah.
And then and then I went on from there to we did a lot of the twin turbo ski boat engine kits. We made all the headers and all sorts of stuff. And then with Bruce Garland, when Bruce went to Parry Day, back then it was Australian Safari. We did all the fab work on those cars, a lot of the fab work. He had his own guys, but I was doing the headers and so on. And then I actually did the development work for all the Mazda for the SP RX-7s and all that. That was a pretty cool story, actually. So I did all of the SP cars. Yeah. So there was a company down the road from us back then, which was HKS, but BD4s.
Yeah, I know HKS, yep.
Yeah, so it was BD4s back then. They had this client who had an RX-7. I'd never even seen one before. He bought it, and they said, "Look, we can supply these bits that HKS make, but there's a guy down the road that can probably make you an intercooler and everything." So they brought him down. Yeah. And I'm going, wow, I've never even seen this car before. What is it? It was an FD RX-7 when they're brand new, brand spanking new. Yep. So anyway, you want to hot it up? Okay, so we'll muck about. I made an intercooler for it, and we got a dump pipe made, all bits and pieces, and anyway, that guy turned out to be, his parents owned Aeroplane Jelly at the time.
No way.
He turned out to be a guy named Herbert Appleroth, who went on to be the CEO of Ferrari Australasia. You've probably heard of him, right?
Yeah.
But this is back then, he was a kid, you know. He was just a uni student. Right? So anyway, then I had the dyno sheet from his car there. And Peter Muir that owns Bond Roll Bars, you heard of them? Yeah. Yep. So Peter used to come and have beers with us on Friday nights, right? And I was showing him what we did. I said, we just finished hotting this up, blah, blah, blah. Yep. And he said, he's at the dyno sheet. And I said, yeah. And he goes, can I take that? And he took it to Mazda. And then on Monday morning, Alan Horsley was on my door and said, you know, we want you to be involved in this. We want to build some cars to beat the Porsches. Yeah. Which went on to become the Triple M cars. And
I'm
boring you to death.
Yeah. No, you're not boring me to death. You're not boring me to death. You're actually saying off air as well, because I said, hey, I've brought in a lot of professional drivers here. You actually have done a bit of street racing yourself. When it was less. Well, everyone street raced at one point.
Back in the 80s, it was like the coppers used to. We'd be down at Clyde refineries or whatever. The coppers would turn up and go, right, we know what you're doing, get out of here. But I will say, back then, if you had an 11-second car, you'd put your heart and soul in it. You'd spent your whole life savings, your time and everything. Yeah. These days, you can change the muffler in a computer on a XR6 turbo and. Yeah. So you can see why they've made it. I mean, they treat it almost like pedophilia now, because people will kill themselves, you know.
Yeah.
Where back then it was, Yeah, it was probably dangerous, but it was certainly not like it would be today, where people can, like I said, they got no respect for it, and and as time went on, I met guys from Cosworth, USA, and you say, did you guys were you racing drive? No, dude, we used to just street race Hondas, So, I think it's our age group. It sort of happened worldwide,
Yeah,
I don't condone it these days. I can tell you now. So
you just
but it was a different world back then,
Yeah. So talking to like recent times, you were spreading on social media that World Time Attack obviously is a big event this year because they've waited 2 years.
Yep.
And some of the teams haven't tested, but PR Tech, they've been testing really hard, haven't they?
Well, they haven't. Not as much as you think. They've done a lot of changes to the car.
Yeah.
The biggest problem with these cars now is they cost so much money to test even.
Yeah, okay.
So, the cost of doing any of this stuff is it's out of control. But like any motorsport, that's what's going to happen when you're pushing the envelope.
Yeah.
So, and they've made a lot of changes to that car. So they have done a couple of test days now, but it's certainly not what people think. When people see V8 supercar teams, well, they're extremely well funded, normally by commercial sponsors or something behind it. Where these cars are all built by individuals, so to try and go and do a lot of testing is very expensive.
Yeah, how does it, like, obviously Bart Moore's my driver coach, as you know. How did
he'd be a good coach too.
Yeah,
he's the right weight.
He's a brilliant coach.
He's good.
I had about 8 second places in a row last year due to him.
Yeah.
So I was
behind him.
Oh no, he coaches me in Formula 4. But yeah, anyway, what I was saying is, how did you attract bigger drivers throughout the years? So did you start with Bart, or did like Van Gisbergen and all those guys? How did those guys start to funnel into
the interesting thing, I think. Okay, well, as it started growing in popularity, Van Gisbergen come through Murray, because Murray Coote's family's friends with Shane.
Yeah,
so I'll go right even back before that. When Murray Coote built the original car, the MCA Hammerhead, we were in a motel car park in New Zealand. And I was actually over there for the drifting. I was helping my mate, Jake Jones, over there, and he was helping his son back then. Yeah. And we're drinking Jim Beam cans, I think, warm ones in the car park of this hotel in, I think in Manfield or somewhere. Yeah. Motel. And anyway, and he said to me, tell me about my son tells me you're doing this one lap thing. Tell me all about it. And I went, yeah, okay. So I told him all about it. He goes, you know what? I can do that. I've got a S13 shell at home. And so for that, you need aero, you need power, and you need a good driver. And yeah, I reckon we can do all that. So he basically just agreed to do it on the spot as he crushed a can and threw it in the bin. And the driver, he goes, I've got this young kid over here. He's going to be a bloody hotshot. Yeah. His name was Earl Bamber.
Yeah, right.
And he said, like, he was really young back then. This is 2009, 2010, yeah?
Yeah, okay.
So then he introduced me to him, and he said, and we did an interview with him, and he said, I want to go to V8 supercars. We bypassed V8 supercars and went on to win Le Mans twice. Yeah. So I guess he was right. He was pretty bloody good,
Yeah.
So then, of course, when he went to drive for Porsche, he couldn't drive Murray's car anymore. And then, so he asked Shane Van Gisbergen to drive, and Shane said, yeah, I'll come and drive it. The thing I think a lot of these drivers love about a time attack car is that in any other form of motorsport, you're told, watch the tyres. There's someone on the radio. Slow down. Save petrol. This is just turn everything to 11 and pin it. Yeah. Which they don't get to do very often. Yeah. Probably not even in qualifying. Oh, they might. I guess they do in qualifying. But even then, they're still conserving the motor or something. This is turn everything up to 11. So I guess the drivers probably like it,
Yeah, right. So I've gone to a few of your events. So throughout the day, they just start to wind the car up even more. Is that how it happens to the main event?
Well, I guess everyone's got a different strategy, but at the end of the day, if you're losing by 0.3 of a second, you think it's 0.3 of a second by turning the boost up to 60 psi. Well, they're going to do it, aren't they?
Yeah.
Take a risk,
Yeah.
The biggest problem again is longevity in something that we've seen over the past few years. To try and run them over 2 days of competition, particularly at the top end, it's like, they're like top fuel dragsters.
Yeah, right.
The top car's a billet engine running 60 psi, and the engine just won't last for 2 days. So I think moving forward, we're probably going to run a 1 day competition. We'll run a 2 day event, but the first day will probably not be competitive. It'll be that's what we're doing this year. Yeah. And I think that's going to be the future moving forward. The only risk you run with that is weather. If you get shit weather on the...
I was going to ask that because it's raining outside.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Well, we don't talk about the rain.
Yeah.
We're not going to have any rain,
Yeah, right. So how did I'm been watching and obviously keeping in contact with some of the people who work with you. What Josh Bennis, he filmed a bit of like your background and stuff.
He's
like
a
that.
funny guy.
Yeah, he's a funny bloke.
Yeah, he's a cool dude. Yeah, he's some of that guy, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
he's a good guy though.
how did the relationship come with him?
Well, so when Alan started working with us, because they all come from Express Publications, see, they were all magazine guys, and as the magazines died off, so Adrian Hodgson, who works for, he was Street Commodores, and so they're all from the magazines, I guess. Yeah, car magazines.
Okay. With your BMX fascination, you've got a few BMXs that
I knew you were going to bring that up.
I love the like the nostalgia.
Well,
where did the BMX thing come?
So.
Sorry, Josh, I'm kind of stealing your content.
I've just got a bit of probably an obsessive compulsive behaviour.
Yeah.
And so when I was young, I was into guitars and BMX and everything. So a few years back, before the BMXs, I was collecting guitars. I was bringing guitars over from Japan and selling them on eBay, and I made a little business out of doing that. And then, I collected I actually had 100 guitars at one stage, and then I cut my finger off building a chopper. I was building a motorbike in the thing, so I couldn't play guitar anymore. So I just lost interest in that. I think the BMX thing just took my mind off not being able to play guitar anymore.
Yeah, right.
And then once again, that got a bit stupid. I actually just sold one to Fabian Coulthard, believe it or not.
Really?
Yeah, quite angle.
Right.
Yeah, he come down. I had dinner with him and Slady when they were at the
the supercars.
The supercars were here. And he seen on my wall and he goes, "Man, that's cool," you know. And I said, and then he started messaging me, "Do you want to sell it?" I'm like, "Yeah, maybe." And then. So I did him a deal, and then he said, "I'm unemployed now."
Yeah.
Is there any fudge factor with the unemployed? But he's got a couple too now, actually. So some of the drivers are in them. I think some of the car guys and BMX sort of go hand in hand.
Yeah.
You know,
so how's the preparation going? You said to me, like I said, I think Alan's a great podcaster because you're producing your own podcast.
Yeah.
So is he the man that's building the media behind the hype this year?
Yeah. So Alan's he was a band for years and everything, and then he come to work with us doing the media, and I've just promoted him to event director. So give him a bit more control over everything, and his passion's there.
Yeah,
I'm old and cranky now, so we need someone that's young and enthusiastic, and he fits that bill, you know.
Yeah, right. Yeah, cool. So you've worked your butt off to making this whole situation of World Time Attack from pretty much nothing at Oran Park to where it is at Eastern Creek in 2022.
Yeah.
But how did you grow up, and like what's the background of like where'd you grow up in Sydney and
Carlingford?
Yeah.
Okay. So actually my young life, all I had was VWs. Once again, I had like the BMXs. I had a stack of them.
Yeah.
And in the end, my road car, which actually was my only car for quite some time. I had all the Volkswagen engines in there one night, 1835s and 2.1 litres and all the rest of the stuff, and then. I went for a drive with my mate's RX3. He just restored it with a 13B. I'm like, man, this is crazy. And the motor was stock, you know.
Yeah.
So then I went on a mission and sold the VW engine, put a 13B in it, right? Yeah. That I bought for $200.
Wow.
And then we put all the cooling system in it, built all the frames for the back of it, and then it was and then I bought a Bridgeport engine. I ended up with the engine that was in the car, and it was still a street car. Was a peripheral port 13B with a 51 IDA Weber that was out of the. I think it was out of the Easy Pav RX-7 that I think it comes 7th outright at Bathurst.
Yeah, okay.
It was like a Barry Jones motor.
Yep.
Which were the hot ticket back then.
Yeah. Barry Jones was actually my stepdad's engineer.
Well,
Jeff
there you
Moore.
go. Yeah. So 280 horsepower.
Yep.
And then it broke everything. So then I had to get Peter Hollinger made me a transmission. That was back in the 80s and crazy. And it's just the whole racing thing's such a small world. So Steve Stanley, that's my tech guy and has been for years, he worked on Barry Jones's team at Bathurst.
Wow.
It's back in the day.
Holy
so it's
smoke.
all, I like it. I mean, it's just, the racing industry is a small world, really, isn't it? You know?
Yeah. We know a lot of people through each other, and
exactly.
that's how I got you on the podcast.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
Yeah, so you've worked your ass off. You come from Carlingford, and what's the going forward situation with World Time Attack?
Well, I mean, it's growing in leaps and bounds. I mean, it is quite daunting, the calibre of some of these cars now. And obviously one of our big thing is safety, because these cars are going so fast now. And we actually had everyone, you know, you get all the Facebook experts about the tyres and all the rest of the stuff, you know. The reality is that at this speed, any tyre is going to be dangerous.
Yeah.
It's up to the team to really don't push it past the limit of the tyre. And so I flew under Suzuki out here. We had a meeting with Yokohama Australia. I had Dr. Sam, who's he's a doctor of physics, who's a head designer on the Porsche and everything. And we all went through the scenarios about the safety of this tyre and changing tyres moving forward and so on. The biggest problem is that we know the limit of this time. We know the safe. Like they all said to me, this tyre's safe provided you don't push it. You go changing that, you could change all the parameters of anything. And the other thing is that all these cars are built around this tyre.
Yeah, right.
That's the next problem. So all of them were confident that provided that they're on top of it. And the big thing is having proper engineers on these cars as well. You can't just have a bloke, I built myself an Evo and I'm coming out and I've got someone else to design the aero and you've got no proper, it's like doing surgery without a doctor.
Yeah.
So the big thing with us is making sure they've got the right people working on the teams that are going to keep this safe because, the accidents the tyre failures we had last year were not caused by the tyre. First of all, under Suzuki's tyres, we're not even meant to be on that car. They were transport tyres that have been used in auto salon. Yeah. He admitted it. He said, I was just trying to conserve my tyres so I got more for the event, We can't do that on these cars, Yeah, that's what caused the car tyre failure. They were 3-year-old tyres that have been used to tie the car down within the thing. Garth Walden's tyre failure, you can't do 3 laps in the heat.
Yeah, right.
The tyre's going to delaminate. That's things. It's pretty common knowledge. I mean, he admitted it too, but again, he got balked by the overseas car and he just wanted to get another lap in. So all these things now we're really on top of to keep the safety moving forward. So all the pro cars, pro class will only run in shootout mode and will only run in the cooler temperatures of the day.
Yeah, okay.
And also Yokohama Australia will be on top of inspecting all the tyres to make sure we've got safety. So I guess for us, safety's the big thing.
Yep.
There's a lot of interest from overseas. We have got interest from Scandinavia's huge.
Yeah, okay. Didn't you have Finland at one point? Or
they all want to come back. There's cars from Sweden. There's 2 or 3 cars from Sweden. There's one from Italy.
Yeah, Italy. Okay.
Actually, that do you know Dainese Leathers?
Yep.
So it's the son of Dainese Leathers that's built a crazy Evo or building a crazy Evo 9.
Wow.
With Andrew Brilliant's designed all the aero. I don't know if I should be talking about this, but
it
doesn't matter. Anyway, we'll just hide it in the middle, right? And then there's some cars in the US. So there's a huge amount of international interest. It's just, people say to me, who you got coming this year? And you go, well, how?
Yeah.
Like, they've only just opened the borders up last week. So it was just, and the cost of shipping this year, I mean, that's all going to stabilise next year. So I think by 2023, we should probably see the biggest event ever, I'm guessing, with overseas content. And we're investing in some infrastructure. I've just bought the first lot of R-racks so we can stack 4 cars into a container.
Wow.
They arrived in America last week.
Pretty
so
cool.
Cole Powelson's got them at his workshop. So we're going to be able to bring, the big thing is bringing the cost of the shipping down to enable to get more cars, all of that stuff. Yeah.
Wow. How did Cole Powson came over here and actually did a Formula 4 drive day with me.
Oh, did he? Yeah, he's a cool dude.
That's all right.
I think he's coming out again this year. He's trying to come out again.
Really?
This year. They obviously can't bring a car, but they can fly here now. So he said, he just loves Time Attack. He was here with his in 2015 the first time with his team, and the big thing is it's an adventure.
Yeah.
It's not just the event. It's you're going overseas to race someone with your team, and it's a bloody adventure.
Yeah, right. So Cole Powson and the Americans, are they going to eventually come here in 2023? You'd say with their team?
Well, I don't know about that car. I think that car is sort of I don't know what he's going to do with it, but it'd be very hard to compete. And Cole's competitive, he wants to do something. So it wouldn't surprise me. What I do know is that he owns Sierra Evo now.
Yeah, right.
So we did talk even about, now that I've got a stacker system, we did talk about even bringing that out here and do some display laps in that. That was an iconic car that, so who knows?
Did you have anything to do with the Top Gear Festival? Was that anything to do with you?
I helped them organise it. So Renato, that worked for me for years, was an event, he was like the event director for that. So not directly, no, but I helped them organise the Time Attack content and so on, and then
okay. Because I'm just remembering from seeing the video, you had the F1 Red Bull. What was it?
Well, that was because we helped Ren get the Time Attack cars, and then Costa or I think Garth went out. So the Tilt Evo was the Time Attack car in that segment, and that got some cool footage.
Yeah, that was wicked. That was my first Time Attack event when I was a kid.
So to give you an idea, that did a 111, and we spoke to Ricardo then. So Time Attack car does 119 now. That did a 111 in display mode.
Wow.
So it's speed limited.
Yep.
And it's on used tyres.
Wow.
So it'll probably, he said there'd be a few more seconds. So I think a current F1 car would probably do 106 or something around these.
Yeah.
They'll never be allowed to run it.
No.
The track's not graded for a thing, so they can only run in what they call display mode.
Mm.
So yeah.
Where'd your fascination with the Japanese motorsport come from? Because you've brought a lot of big Japanese superstars here.
So I guess because in my fabrication business, when I started High Octane Racing, we were doing GDRs in the early days, preparing. I used to do them for Kevin Bartlett and all sorts of guys like that. When I say didn't for Kevin Bartlett, that's not true. I did fabrication for him. Obviously Kevin and Ronnie did all the work on them, but we were preparing a lot of tarmac rally GDRs and everything in the 90s, So. Yeah. I guess it all just stemmed from that, really, yeah. And also back then, Time Attack, even everywhere else around, it was starting to take off in America and the UK a little bit, but all the cool cars come out of Japan, so that's why we sort of went that way, Yeah,
right. Did you just decide to bring in the Drift Series to the world? Well, how did that all happen? Because the Drift Series, they're their own championship, essentially, aren't they?
The drift in Australia has been really tricky. It's in America, if you look in America, it's the other way around. Formula Drift took off and it's flying, and Jason's doing a really good job with what he's got to work with in Time Attack in America. But they've had a lot of problems over there over the years before Jason took it over with certain series and that didn't do what they promised, and people got. And so then sponsors don't want to know about it. And we actually spoke to, we went and spoke to some American companies about looking at helping do some stuff over there. And they said Time Attack has had a big problem over here with its perception. And in Australia, I think Drift has copped a little bit of that. In 2008, when Drift Australia folded, and then, they had ADGP, then they've had all these different series come and go. So until they get some, and I know High Tech's trying to do it now, but until they get some stability and longevity in it, it makes it very hard. So in 2011, we, what did we do? We had 2010, we did a demo for, that's right, because it folded in 2009. So 2010, we allowed them to do a 1 hour demo at lunchtime. And then 2011, I went over to New Zealand. D1NZ is really strong. They've got they got kick-ass cars. It was back then. It was Mad Mike and Kurt Whitaker and Gaz Wider and and they're all pro-level cars compared to. I wouldn't say compared to here, but they were all. There was a whole heap of really top-tier cars. So I went, you know what, we've got to bring these guys to Australia. So we packed up a container and we bought Mad Mike, Gaz Wider, I think Kurt Whitaker and Cole Armstrong from memory, or I can't remember. There was quite a few, and that sort of set the seed for our international drift event, and that's just continued from that day on. We don't see ourselves. We want to work alongside any series. We never want to start a series. We just want to be one big event. Yeah, and it's sort of like you can run in the IPRA all year or something. Then the Bathurst 6 hours on, so you go to that. Yeah, okay. That sort of thing. And that's where we see ourselves fitting in.
Yeah, okay. Is the drift series? Is that a non-championship event for them, or is this year?
Our drift event is run by us, and it's no championship for anything else.
Okay,
so cool. it's a standalone. So it's like a demo event. Basically, come and win a trophy.
Yeah.
But what the big thing again is the inspiration. Like you see these young kids, and we've invited some young kid from Queensland, and who's Peter beside me? Dago Sato in his fucking Lamborghini.
Yeah.
That's just crazy, right? And we see the same thing with Time Attack. They're like, some young kids bought his WRX to run in club sprint class, and Nob Taniguchi and Shane Van Gisbergen are in the next garage. That's just to them is just wow. So the inspiration side of it is what drags it all up too.
Yeah. Right. Wow. Well,
I think.
Yeah.
I don't know for sure, but you'd have to assume, wouldn't you? You know?
Yeah. So obviously you know that me and my relationship with Bart and Walk goes a long way. So with Bart, where did he told me on his podcast that David Wall was driving for a team.
He was. I think he was originally.
How did that happen?
Well, that would have all been done through PR Tech.
Yeah, okay.
I'm guessing. I don't know for sure. Because I think the first event David Wall did drive. Well, I think David's had a lot to do with PR Tech too.
Yeah.
And he's a good driver as well, you know.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, if I looked at the size and I was going for time attack and I looked at Big Dave or I looked at Bart, I know who I'd be picking.
Yeah.
Because there'd be about 3/10 just in the weight difference, you know.
Yeah.
No offense to Dave Wall, he's a good bloke and a bloody good driver, but Bart weighs nothing, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
So I mean, he fits the profile, doesn't he? And he's a good guy to boot. He's passionate about it all. He went over to America.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
and they invited him over there, and good.
Yeah. So you've had all that, and over in America, what are the main America, as we're wrapping up the podcast, what are the main like series in America that are close to World Time Attack? It's Pikes Peak, isn't it?
Well, so Pikes Peak's a hill climb. It's pretty much different. It's although a lot of the cars, I mean, they run open wheelers and everything there. I would say Jason's doing a good job now. But the super lap battle that he's got going at Coda, full credit to him. He come out and see, like, they've struggled to get it all happening over there. Full credit to him. He come over and see what we're doing. He said, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to build one big event. And you can see it building year upon year. I mean, like everyone, he's struggled with the COVID thing. We've all copped that. So it's probably been hard for the past year or two. But they had that was on last weekend, and they looked like they had a great crowd, and full hats off to him. So I'd say the next big thing. See, Button Willow has traditionally been the time attack nucleus of America. Yeah. But if you go there, the reason that happens is because it's traditionally run by magazines and it's cheap to hire. It's in the middle of nowhere. There's no stands or anything. Whereas, and that's what, we looked at, no offence to Wakefield, but we said we could never take World Time Attack to Wakefield because it's just too small. It doesn't have the infrastructure and doesn't have the seating capacity. It's not really a spectator, a friendly place. Like the canteen wouldn't even be big enough. So and Button Willow's the same as that. So I think moving to a place where it's got the facilities and everything to grow is a very important part of it.
Yeah, and you're always going to have World Time Attack at Eastern Creek, aren't you? Or are you going to decide to compromise it and go to other like Phillip Island and whatnot? Are you going to do other versions of it?
There's a few things there that I'm going to bring up that are really important.
Yeah.
I would never run the full aero cars at Phillip Island.
Yeah.
I think it'd be very dangerous because of the tyre loads you'd see on some of the corners. And these are things we looked at. I wouldn't run them at Bathurst either.
Yeah, okay.
Because you got to remember, so these cars are, well, motorsport's dangerous anyway, but we feel confident that we've done the safety analysis on running those cars on these tyres at Sydney Motorsport Park.
Yep.
And we've done it for 10 years. Obviously, as you push the boundaries, the risk increases, but I want to, all these guys are my friends. I don't want anything to happen to them. So, I'm very conscious of all that too.
Yeah.
So we, and also the other thing that you worry about is if we don't want to dilute what we're doing. And thirdly, I've got a contract with the New South Wales government that this stays at Sydney Motorsport Park for the next 5 years.
Yeah, okay.
So there's the final answer that yes, we'll be staying in Sydney.
Yeah, okay, cool. So over the COVID period, one of your best mates, Ian Mosser, was it Mosby?
Adrian Mosser.
There we go. I never knew him, but you a lot of people were close to him, and he was just the life of the party.
Mate,
it looked like.
He was larger than life. Let me tell you, he was. I was looking for it when I started doing the drift. His name come up somehow, and then I don't even remember. I think he might have even contacted me and said someone's put me in touch with me. And look, I'm here after a drift commentator, and he come every year, and he was a big guy. He always come with one or two of his mates, and he was just so passionate about everything, not just me or motorsport.
Yeah,
but he was just so passionate about everything. So when I found out he died, it knocked me off my perch. I was like, wow. So we're going to do something special for him this year.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very sad. He had a brain aneurysm in the shower, and I guess that can happen to anyone. And he was only 49 years old, young kid.
Yeah.
Wife, family, business, all the stuff that everyone else is doing. And, and that just happened. So
he ran a go-kart team, didn't he, down in Tasmania?
That was just his son. But he sponsored, like, he had the biggest heart. Like any young kid that approached him, I need to like he sponsored half the. You wouldn't even know. He'd had a tiny little sticker and give him a couple of grand or something.
Yeah, wow.
Everyone. He was just that's the kind of guy he was. So that was very sad. And we also lost the year before. We lost Takizawa, who was the owner of the Cyber Evo.
Yeah, okay.
To COVID. So we're going to do something for him as well. He was he was a dentist that built a time attack car, right?
Yeah.
He came out here and tuned it by ear.
Yeah,
in those early days, he was a genius tuner, but he wasn't a tuner. He was a dentist. So that was all part of the legend of time attack, that.
Yeah.
So that was sad as well. So we're going to do a tribute to both of them this year, and you'll see what we're doing with the event. It'll be pretty cool. Yeah.
Wow. Well, obviously, I haven't brought up also that you've not only do you have a fascination with BMX bikes, you actually have a fascination with motorbike, big Harleys and do you have that type of stuff? Because I've got Tony Southwell, who's a bit of a bikie too, coming in soon. So yeah.
So I have all the time. In fact, I've only ever owned Harleys all my life, and it's just been a fascination of mine. I don't know why. I've never been a bikie or anything. I've just always loved American big V twins. And I actually built, when I was a fabricator, I built a whole chrome moly lightweight chassis and made all the parts on it. We made everything. So I basically only bought the wheels and the engine and the gearbox and tyres and a couple of other things, and we made everything else. So it was all made out of using lightweight techniques so a normal soft whale weighed about 300 kilos. This weighed about 240. So even with the stock motor, it was really fast. But I've still got a couple of bikes, and these days the tech on the new ones is great. Like the new engine's a 4-valve and 150 horsepower.
When did you buy your first Harley though? Compared to
when I was about, I reckon, 90. I bought an 89 soft tail in 1993, I reckon.
Yeah, okay.
So, and then ever since then, I've always had bikes. It's just, to me, I just like riding them on the road. I've done a bit of drag racing when I was younger. That was not really for me. I just like big, powerful V-twin out on an open road somewhere. Fucking rock and roll, right?
Yeah. Do you have, because you're like a big car, just an adrenaline fan, do you actually have like a garage anywhere that you've stored your stuff, or do you just sell and buy something new?
Well, no, I've actually, believe it or not, I've just been driving a little i30 for the past few years. But
they're a great car.
It is a good car. I had Holden Utes for years, like SS Utes, because I needed them for business. And I've actually just finally ordered a cool car again. I ordered a Kona N.
Yeah, right.
But we have Hyundai is one of my biggest clients with one of the businesses I got, and they've sponsored us at Time Attack and everything. And when that car came out, I went, that's so cool. So I ordered one, but I haven't got it yet.
Yeah,
I can't get it. They can't get the chips for them. So I'm sort of hanging to get. They'll have a good car again, So and you can go and do track days in a little SUV. Yeah, be a bit of fun,
Yeah, right. It's also, I'm bringing up the car collection because you're mates with Chad Parrish. I actually want to know a bit about him. Does he keep
Megsy?
Yeah,
you'll never know about Megsy.
I mean, he's the most infamous bloke.
He's the richest homeless man in the world.
That's what I was going to say. He just rocks up, doesn't he, to the pub?
He's got some cool. I've known Chad for 20-something years. We went to SEMA together years ago, and I've known him since he used to have the Mustang shop up at Castle Hill. He actually bought one of my Harleys off me and built a chopper out of it. It was on the cover of years ago. So, me and Chad go back 25 years. He's helped me put together some of the sports cars and collector cars that we bring to Time Attack, and he's bought some of his own stuff, and he's a guy that I probably shouldn't talk out of school, but he's a guy that a lot of guys use to help buy cars because he knows all about them. Yeah, and he looks like he's homeless.
Yeah.
so he can probably get a better deal than they can. He's a good guy. He's been a mate of mine for years.
Where's that pub that you always go to in Roselle?
The Bull Rock Hotel.
That's it.
That's where you should be drinking, mate.
Yeah,
it's the best pub in Sydney, and they've been a supporter of World Time Attack too. So thanks, Francie.
Yeah,
thanks,
right.
Francie.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Okay. So you pretty much go there every week. Do you even go there?
Well,
when
that's my local.
Yeah.
That's my local. Yeah.
So do you live in Rose? Do you live in Roselle?
Yeah. Okay. So So I can sort of mosey home from there.
Yeah. Right. Okay.
And it's a cool place. It's got a really good vibe to it, and I just like it there. So
yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah. I try and keep it to like 2 or 3 days a week now. It used to be 5.
Yeah.
I don't believe it or not, I don't go there on weekends because it's all the imports are there. We just go there for a couple of beers in the afternoon. I've done that my whole life. When I had workshops, we used to get a carton of beer in the afternoon. So it's back from Bruce Garland will tell you that every day we used to get a box of beer. That was just culture, really. Yeah. Right back to when I was from when I was 18 years old, we get a box of beer in the afternoon, and
How'd you meet the tattoo? Like, I'm going through your social media, right? So how'd you meet the girls with the tattoos?
They all work for me.
They all work. Yeah, right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, right.
Long story that one. That's for the next. That's for the next.
That's for the next episode.
Next episode. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Okay. So that can be another episode. Yeah. But yeah. Right. So they all work for you and stuff like that. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Cool. Thanks again, Ian, for joining on the couch with Harley, and I'll see you next time.